Dear fellow truth seekers, thank you and welcome for visiting my channel, MythoReligio. MythoReligio is a series of books about religious comparison studies between the stories in Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and Buddhism, directly from their sacred books and world mythologies, hence the name MythoReligio. The purpose is to retrace the prehistory of humanity, since I am not fully satisfied with either the explanations from the point of view of creationists nor evolutionists. There are so many missing links in both explanations. If you feel the same, then you are on the right channel. In this book series, I will also analyze about the prehistory of humanity from the archaeological records, modern scientific point of view, and other alternative theories, such as the ancient alien theories and Atlantis or Lemuria legends. After thorough research of circa 30 years, I recognize many similarities between all religious stories and even mythologies, and surprisingly, some of them are in accordance or even beyond modern science that have been proven as correct. Thus, I came to the conclusion that all religions must have come from the same source. And all these religious stories and mythologies, although heavily jumbled up, are actually telling one mega story, the true prehistory of our common ancestors. This mega story is quite different than what we have been told to believe and will truly blow your mind, as it is more fascinating than our imagination. If you have watched the earlier videos in this channel, I believe you can see some of the similarities too. If you haven't and you truly want to do a religious comparative study, I suggest that you do so. The best way to do a comprehensive religious study via this channel is by watching the videos starting from number 1 and continue until this present video and so on. That way you will see a clear pattern. For deeper analysis that I cannot share in this platform due to its sensitive nature that leads to the above conclusion, kindly read the books that are available in ebook format that can be found in my website www.mythoreligio.com or the physical books at Amazon in color or black and white version. Scientific theories on the origin of life. Dear fellow truth seekers, in my last video, I have shared the timeline of cosmology theories, starting from the flat earth theory to the Big Bang. Now let's turn to the modern scientific explanation concerning the origin of life. How did life emerge on Earth? How did the many varieties of living beings come into being? Today, the most influential scientific theory that is used to answer this question is the modern theory of evolution. Simply put, according to this theory, animals, plants, and humans changed or evolved over a long period of time until they come to be the way they are now. Most laymen, including me of course, think automatically of Charles Darwin when discussing about the theory of evolution. But actually, Charles Darwin was only the one who made this theory popular. In reality, the theory of evolution itself has gone through much evolution by taking and combining ideas from many different philosophers and scientists throughout a long period of time. The following is the simplified short history of various theories and beliefs concerning the origin of life on Earth. Hindus' reincarnation. A very similar idea to the theory of evolution is the belief of reincarnation by the Hindus and its derivations. The birth date of Hinduism is still a matter of debate up to now. If we count from the composition of the oldest Hindu scripture, Rig Veda, then it was between 1700 or 1100 BCE, according to Wikipedia. The difference is, in Hinduism, reincarnation is believed to occur only after the death of the body. Then the soul or spirit comes back to earth in a newborn body. The newborn body may be in the form of another human or animal, so it either evolves or devolves. Jewish creation belief. The birth date of Judaism, too, is still a matter of debate. According to the Old Testament, Moses was the one who wrote the Torah, the first 5 books of the Tanakh or Old Testament. And generally it is believed that Moses lived at between 1500 to 1200 BCE. Judaism is believed by many as the oldest monotheism in the world, with the teaching that God created the universe by uttering His word, and the first human was created from dust in His own image. Ancient Greeks' creation belief. Like any other civilizations in the world, the ancient archaic Greek beginning circa 8th century BCE to 480 BCE according to Wikipedia, understanding of cosmology was heavily influenced by mythology. The prevalent belief among them was that living things could come into being from non-living matter, and that the goddess Gaia could create life spontaneously from stones. In another version, like the biblical god, Prometheus created man out of earth or mud, and the goddess of wisdom, Athena, breathed life into it. Theory of materialism. Although most ancient Greeks believed in a mythical creation, around 7th century BCE, some philosophers proposed the theory of materialism. They tried to explain natural phenomena without the aid of myth, i.e., their religion, but with material principles. This theory holds the only thing that exists is matter, that all things are composed of material and all phenomena, including consciousness, are the result of material interactions. In other words, matter is the only substance. This is the very principle of modern scientific thought, which was later advanced further by improved research methods. Life beginning with water. Several religious stories or mythologies mention water as the first substance before the creation of the universe. The first person known in the West to have attempted to explain it in non-mythological terms was Thales, 624 BCE to 546 BCE. Thales was an early Greek philosopher born in Miletus, today a province in Turkey. He proposed that all substances in the entire world were formed out of one original substance, which is water. Human originated from fish. Anaximander, 610 BCE to 546 BCE, was a student of Thales. He proposed a crude theory of evolution that from warmed-up water and earth emerge either fish or entirely fish-like animals. Inside these animals, men took form and embryos were held prisoners until puberty. Only then, after these animals burst forth, could men and women come out, now able to feed themselves. Anaximander theorized that humans had to spend part of this transition inside the mouth of big fish to protect themselves from the Earth climate until they could come out in the open air and lose their scales. Creation by a rational God. Plato, 428 BCE to 348 BCE, another Greek philosopher, believed the universe was created by a rational God who created the primordial matter and its laws and then left it to operate itself. He believed that natural phenomena can be explained as the result of physical matter moving in accordance with natural law. Theory of abiogenesis. Aristotle, 384 BCE to 322 BCE, was a student of Plato. He rejected the creation theory. He believed that creatures could arise from other organisms or from soil. This process is called abiogenesis or spontaneous generation. According to Aristotle, plant flies arise from the dew which falls on plants, fleas from putrid matter, mice from dirty hay, crocodiles from rotting logs, and so on. This belief was paired with heterogenesis, the belief that one form of life derives from a different form, for example, bees from flowers. This quote-unquote scientific belief with variations was held to be the truth in the Greek philosophical and the Western world until the coming of Christianity. Transformation of forms. A Chinese philosopher named Zhuangzi, 369 BCE to 286 BCE, also mentioned life forms having an innate ability to transform and adapt to their surroundings. He believed that life could transform from simple to more complex forms. Humans are also subject to this process as humans are a part of nature. Christian belief. After the West embraced Christianity from 306 CE, when calculated from Constantine I as Roman Emperor, the general belief is the creation account told in the Jewish Tanakh and the Christian Old Testament, that the first human was created from dust and the woman from his rib, and that the whole world was created in 6 days at circa 6,000 years ago. This is the established biblical view that continues to prevail until present day. People, including some scientists who hold this belief, are usually termed as creationists. Meanwhile, people, including most scientists, who believe in the theory of evolution are termed as evolutionists. These two groups have been in constant debate until today. Mohammedan theory of evolution. The Muslim scientist Ibn Sina, 980 CE till 1037 CE, Ibn Arabi, 1165 CE to 1240 CE, and Ibn Khaldun, 1332 CE till 1406 CE, among other scientists, proposed a theory of evolution which declared that human beings developed over a long period of time from lower forms of life to their present condition. Every Muslim school and mosque used to teach evolution up until a few hundred years ago. Some Westerners, including Darwin's contemporary Sir William Draper, a British scientist/military officer, called it the Mohammedan theory of evolution. Reference The History of the Conflict Between Religion and Science by John W. Draper. Diverse theories after the Age of Enlightenment. The breakdown of the Western religious authority occurred during the Age of Enlightenment, centered upon the 18th century CE. With a newfound freedom of thinking, Western philosophers and/or scientists came up with several theories concerning the origin of life. The original idea of the Darwin theory of evolution probably was suggested by John Locke, 1632 to 1704, an English philosopher and physician widely regarded as one of the most influential of Enlightenment thinkers and commonly known as the father of liberalism. Locke claimed that human beings are free enough to transform or evolve natural reality into something better, a process which is also constant and ceaseless, one which moves us from the impersonal stability of natural laws to the increasing power of individualism. During the Age of Enlightenment, the biblical creation belief as well as the theory of abiogenesis, i.e., creatures could arise from other organisms or from soil, began to be challenged. Several Western scientists performed observations to prove or disprove the validity of the theory of abiogenesis. Here are some of them. 1668, Francesco Redi, an Italian physician, stated that higher forms of life did not originate spontaneously. 1745, English biologist and Roman Catholic priest John Needham added chicken broth to a flask and boiled it. He then let it cool and waited. Microbes grew, and he proposed it as an example of abiogenesis. 1786, Italian biologist and physiologist Lazzaro Spallanzani repeated Needham's experiment but removed all the air from the flask. No growth occurred. Lamarckian theory of evolution. 1809, Jean-Baptiste Lamarck, a French naturalist, presented an early version of the modern theory of evolution. Lamarck thought that all living things were endowed with a vital force that drove them to evolve toward greater complexity. He also thought that organisms could pass on to their offspring traits acquired during their lifetimes. As an example, Lamarck theorized that all elephants used to have short trunks. When there was no food or water within reach of their short trunks, they stretched their trunks to reach the water and high branches. Thus, their offspring inherited long trunks. Another example is that the long neck of a giraffe was developed by an effort running through thousands of years to reach the foliage of trees. Lamarck also said that body parts that are not being used, such as the human appendix and little toes, are gradually disappearing. Eventually, people will be born without these parts. In short, he believed that life evolved from the lowest form to a higher form. The formation of a new species that has evolved from another species is called speciation. Darwin's theory of evolution. Finally, in 1859, the basis for the modern theory of evolution was made famous by the English naturalist Charles Darwin in his book, The Origin of Species, under the influence of Dr. Erasmus Darwin, his grandfather, and Dr. Thomas Henry Huxley. The basic theory is that all species had descended from a single ancestor, evolving from one another over time by slight variations. Darwin based his theory on various observations when he took a voyage around the world. He observed the diversity of species, especially of the different finches in Galapagos Islands, in the Pacific Ocean part of Ecuador, South America. Darwin thought that the different beaks of the seed-eating birds were a result of their adaptation to their different environments. Back in England, he observed further how cow breeders produce new breeds of cow by mating these animals with different characteristics. Some cows are bigger than others, while some have darker colors. Natural selection selects the useful, favorable traits. The process of natural selection thus causes an increase of favorable genes within a population, which results in the features of that population being better adapted to local conditions, i.e., survival of the fittest. Over time, these changes may be significant enough to cause a new species to arise. Thus, unlike Lamarck, Darwin believed that the desires of animals have nothing to do with how they evolve, and that changes in an organism, an individual animal or plant, during its life do not affect the evolution of the species. In other words, they do not necessarily evolve from the lowest to a higher form. He said that organisms, even of the same species, are all different, and that those which happen to have variations that help them to survive in their environments survive and have more offspring. The offspring is born with their parents' helpful traits, and as they reproduce, individuals with that trait make up more of the population. Other individuals that are not so well adapted die off. According to Darwin, most elephants used to have short trunks, but some had longer trunks. When there was no food or water that they could not reach with their short trunks, the ones with short trunks died off, and the ones with long trunks survived and reproduced. Eventually, all elephants have long trunks. So how did Darwin explain the speciation process? Darwin assumed that natural selection was the mechanism of evolution. Yet one question remained unanswered. How would these useful traits be selected and transmitted from one generation to the next? At this point, Darwin embraced the Lamarckian theory, that is, the inheritance of acquired traits. Reference the great evolution mystery, Gordon R. Taylor. Darwin used the following cases as examples. As a man losing part of his little finger and all his sons being born with deformed little fingers, and boys born with foreskins much reduced in length as a result of generations of circumcision. When Darwin's theory first came to public attention in 1859, it was met with a storm of protest and ridicule. Some people, misinterpreting the theory, thought it claimed that humans were descended from apes. Actually, the theory states that humans and apes had a common ancestor who was neither human nor ape. In his book, Darwin never mentioned the origin of life. When he wrote the book, the science of genetics was practically unknown. The general public still held the assumption that living things had very simple structures. Scientists were still making various experiments, some pro and others contra to the theory of abiogenesis. Many still believed that maggots appeared in meat were an evidence for this theory. Today we know that it is incorrect. But let me continue with sharing other theories that prove or disprove the theory of abiogenesis as well as Darwin's theory of evolution next week. For now, I thank you for watching and hope to see you next week.